Hello, and welcome back to Wildlife Quest. Today, we are back at Ouwehands Dierenpark. Last time we were here, we toured the award-winning Pandasia. So, let's continue where we left off and tour het Berenbos, which simply translates to the bear forest. I'll save some of the exhibit's history for during the tour this time. So, without any further ado, let's start our tour. We start off at a small village square. In this village, dubbed Karpatica, the first animals we'll find are some turkeys and chickens. Here, you can enter the maze to test your bear knowledge. In case you want to freshen up on that bear knowledge, there's a lot of education to be found around the village. This includes some general bear education, an introduction to some of the inhabitants we might soon meet, and some information about the exhibit itself. As we make our way through the cave up the walkway, let me tell you some of this information about this exhibit. This habitat has a footprint of 2 hectares and opened in 1993. The forest is the first bear sanctuary that opened in Europe. Bears from circuses, theaters, or other places of neglect are given a natural environment to stimulate natural behavior. Since the bear forest opening, the zoo has rescued and cared for 34 brown bears. Currently, it's housing 11 bears, all with their own traumatic story. For example, one of the most recent additions is Kirusha. She came from a tiny cage in a Ukrainian hotel where she'd been locked up for 18 years, while before that performing in a circus. In 2022, she was rescued and taken in at Ouwehands. You don't get away unscathed from situations like this. This is why she and some of the other bears might occasionally still display stereotypical behavior. Luckily, the bears have all the space and facilities here at Ouwehands to live out the rest of their lives like bears. You might have noticed that these bears share their forest with grey wolves. You can get a real top-down view of these animals from the climbing structure crossing part of the exhibit. In the center, next to the big pond, we descend the elevated walkway to find more education about the bear forest and the organization which helps rescue and facilitate these animals. Bears in mind. From down here, we can continue through the woods on ground level and past the waterfall. As you might have noticed, the habitat is split in half by the walkway. The 2 sides of the exhibit are connected through several tunnels, which can be closed when animals need to be separated. Such as during the winter months, when you don't want the wolves disturbing the bear's hibernation. As we leave the bear forest behind us, we can get another side peek into the exhibit, where we can also see where the bear's indoor holding is located. This would be the end of the original bear forest exhibit, but in 2016 the observation post was added. As we take a left when exiting the bear forest, we approach this observation post. Again, this building is filled with education, and while the brown bear can be seen here, the focus is on someone else. The animal you can observe from the observation post is the sun bear. The sun bear is the smallest species of bear and the only species to exclusively live in tropical rainforests. They are expert climbers and even create sleeping nests in trees. While that concludes the part of the zoo which is known as Expedition Bear Forest, we are right next to another big bear exhibit. So let's extend our tour to take a look at the next animal. We just left the smallest bear species. Now say hello to the biggest, the polar bear. In the year 2000, the zoo opened this rocky sandy tundra enclosure featuring a 1 million liter pool, which can be viewed from a 12 meter wide, 4 meter high viewing window. If you walk uphill, you can get a panoramic view of the entire enclosure from the top. While this enclosure looks pretty natural, on the other side you'll find the old polar bear enclosures, complete with faux snowy rocks, utilitarian moats, and in some places even concrete flooring. But most of the enclosure at least has dirt substrate and tons of enrichment. And with full access to both the old and newer enclosure, the polar bear's welfare is being kept up to standards. Polar bears are a historic symbol for the zoo. Back during World War II, in 1940, Dutch soldiers were holding the line at Ouwehands. The generals were afraid the dangerous animals could break out during combat and wanted all of them shot as a precaution. Cor Ouwehands, founder of the zoo, did not trust the soldiers to do it right. So with pain in his heart, he did it himself. Until he reached the polar bears. Polar bear Maxie had just given birth to 2 young. Ouwehands could not get himself to shoot the bears and hid them away. A few days later, battle breaks out right where the zoo is located. While many animals did not survive and most of the zoo was destroyed, Ouwehands discovered that the polar bears made it out unscathed. They became a symbol for the reconstruction of the zoo. 2 years later, the zoo was able to reopen with great success. But unfortunately, in 1944, Nazi forces invaded again and killed the polar bears. The only thing left from that period of the zoo are the entrance gate, memorial bench and the old polar bear enclosures. Although they have of course been updated since. Do not leave on such a depressing note. I'll let you know that the zoo has had great success in breeding this vulnerable species multiple times in the past. So, that concludes our tour of the Bear Forest and Polar Bear exhibit at Ouwehands Dierenpark Rhenen. Just as a little update, right next to the observation post and polar bear exhibit, the zoo is still hard at work on the upcoming koala exhibit. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on Wildlife Quest. As always, I'd like to encourage you all to help protect the world's wildlife. There's always something you can do to help, from donating to simply spreading the word. Today, I'd like to highlight, well, bears in mind of course. Besides the work they do in saving and rehoming neglected bears, they also do a lot of education work, scientific research and protection of the wild habitat of all bear species. You can support Bears in Mind by donating, adopting a bear or wolf, or symbolically buying a piece of the bear forest. You can also join the Berenbos Run in Ouwehands on September 10th to raise money and awareness for the cause. And of course, you can always help by spreading the word and educating others. Thank you for making it this far. It means a lot to me that you actually listen to the conservation message. So yeah, thank you and see ya.
Ben jij voor altijd vrij?